watching more Sunrise on the Reaping TikTok. This is like the 5th one we've done of these. You know the drill. If you have not read the book, it will not be fun, but it will be worth it. Goodbye. Come back when you've read the book. I've queued up quite the batch for us today. You can't look at me and tell me that this is not a warm-up for the movie. Joseph Zeta recently starred in the We Were Liars TV series. It's based off this book. I have read the book. I have not watched the TV series yet, though believe me, I will be. The way he even moves looks like Haymitch, and that's why I feel like it has to be in the back of his mind, you know? Like, as an actor, you have to be so excited to be in the Hunger Games. Like, this franchise is massive. It has launched many a career. No way isn't on your mind right now as like a person. And so when you go into film, I feel like maybe there's a piece of that in there for him. He just looks spot on. Like, it's crazy. The mannerisms, the way he carries himself, and I swear they did it on purpose with him with that whiskey glass. It looks like the one in the movie. Somebody on that film crew is a Hunger Games fan, and they're helping us out right here. They knew that these edits were coming, and they said, I'm gonna do this kid a solid. You know what I mean? Like, it's so exciting. I'm so excited. If you watched We Were Liars, the TV series, hopefully by the time you see this, I've watched the TV show. However, let me know your thoughts if you've seen it. I feel like people are eating it up right now because of Joseph Zeta, so I am really looking forward to it. Also, like, that book, I mean, if you know how it ends, like, it was one of the first books I read like that. I don't want to give anything away, so I'll just leave that here and be cryptic. I'm reading Ballad and just noticed that Sejanus first tried to befriend Coriolanus by offering him a bag of gumdrops. Are you kidding me? That is some crazy work, Suzanne. What? I know that, like, Snow didn't decide on the gumdrops. It was like the gumdrops were the vehicle, and he somehow knew that Lenore Dove already had some from Haymitch, unless he didn't know, and he actually just picked gumdrops because of Sejanus. Do you think she does this on purpose? She has to, right? She has to do this on purpose. But how do you think of these things?
Hey, yo, happy birthday, Haymitch.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I completely forgot about this going into 4th of July. It's been, a couple months since I read the book. It wasn't exactly on my radar as, like, a thing yet. And so when I saw this, ouch. Still crazy to me that, first of all, Reaping Day is on July 4th. That's wild. That's intentional, and it's wild. However, if you think about when Snow was in charge, though, I wonder if July 4th was codified yet as, like, Reaping Day, or if that's something that he chose. Because, as you could probably imagine from the capital side, Reaping Day, for them, is sort of like an exact opposite day. Because, in a way, because the way the capital has set things up, the districts can't, like, communicate trade with one another, especially not easily. And so they're all dependent on the capital, and to put Reaping Day on Independence Day is truly a celebration only for the capital. They try to frame it as a celebration for all of Panem, but obviously that's not the truth. But it is like such a slap in the face that the last thing they have is their freedom.
The Katniss is just Haymitch with better luck thing, which, yes, obviously. And have we considered Katniss is also just Maysilee with better luck? Like, Sunrise on the Reaping is such a genius and important part of the Hunger Games canon in the way that it continues to subvert the chosen one trope, and like the way that we tend to pedestalize heroes like Katniss by showcasing the decades of resistance that were necessary to pave the way for who she ended up being. And also the way that, like, Katniss wasn't any more special or smart or dedicated than any of these people. Like, you look at somebody like Maisilee, who in my opinion had all of the intelligence, all of the fire, like all of the creativity to be a Katniss, and in, like, hot take, maybe could have even been better at some aspects of it than Katniss was, because she actually wanted to do it. Like, whereas Katniss very much had this role of being the face of a revolution, like, put on her, and she really struggled with it. Maisilee, we see, goes in, like, from the jump, so clear on what she wants to do, what story she wants to tell, what poster she wants to paint, and she uses every single moment to do that. But she was a generation too early. Like, she didn't have the support behind her that Katniss did, because she had to create the support that Katniss would end up benefiting from by being a foundational person in Haymitch's life, by being one of the people pioneering this idea of like non-career districts being allies, by the way that she talked about aesthetics and symbols and images and story and the way that we can use those to shift public perception, like all things that ended up being such core parts of the successful revolution. I saw somebody even talking about how like Katniss potentially got her signature look indirectly from Maisie, because Maisie was really good at braiding. She was Katniss's mom's bestie. Katniss learned to braid from her mom. Like, she created all of these ripple effects while doing what from the outside looked like failing and having her name largely lost to history. All of these people are doing things that look like crushing failures that they never could have predicted 25 years from then would be the reason why they won. None of them were less important or less skilled or less deserving than Katniss or than the people that were alive at that time. They just were the ones that had to go first, you know? Like, Maisie could have been Katniss if she had had a Maisie 25 years earlier. Nothing is defeat as long as you build from it. It might not be you that wins, but somebody else might, and is that not worth it?
Fanfiction request. If Maisie had been the Mockingjay, so obviously we love Katniss and Peeta, but can you imagine Maisie? That would have been wild. Oh my gosh. And obviously Maisie loves her sister, but she doesn't have a prim. And I think in a lot of ways, that is what ends up holding Katniss back sometimes from punching as hard as she wants to at Snow, and Maisie has zero of that. I would have loved to see that. Can you imagine her filming the propos? Overall, like, I love everything she said in that video. Like, it's so interesting. And also, I didn't really, I guess, connect those dots, or I forgot the way, like, yes, Maisie with the braids and the Mockingjay pin and all of that stuff, how much that actually does end up playing into Katniss's iconic look. You can say that it doesn't matter, but it does. We see it when Snow's own granddaughter starts braiding her hair. It's all the small connections. To the granddaughter, you know, she's just kind of following an example of someone she looks up to as a strong and brave personality, and how Katniss was influencing the culture around her, even down to something like having, like, you know, the special Katniss braid. But to Snow and to the adults around her, like, it showed so much more, particularly the way Katniss was reaching the young generation. You can kind of imagine, like, we don't really touch on that as much, like the Capital youth and whether or not it was possible to reach them and stuff like that. But we kind of do touch on it a little bit with Katniss, how someone young and beautiful might pose a threat to someone like Snow just from an aesthetic perspective. And I feel like that's something Maisie would have understood and run with if she had had her chance to be the Mockingjay and she and Haymitch had gotten out instead. I had to show you this one. It's not like there was, I feel like, anything new that we haven't talked about in this TikTok. Now you're home, I guess. I can eat the up. Sorry. I know what the comments say, and it's so funny. Someone put, girl, I thought you were... Someone put, girl, I thought you were tripping, and this was about cannibalism. It does kind of read that way. Somebody else put, just close the book after the first happy birthday, Haymitch. It's called self-care. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wouldn't say, I feel like a lot of us consider reading to be a form of self-care, but not this one, right? Bye. Goodbye. Bye. Bye. When I first saw this, oh my gosh. The way you can go from like crying, laughing to true crying on social media, it should be studied. Somebody is probably studying it. This cannot be good for our brains. It's so upsetting to think about it like this because Haymitch is watching kind of the only thing he ever wanted in life. And also, he did experience that. When he came back and Sid and his mom were already dead, he didn't get to have that reunion with them, but he did get to have it with Lenore Dove. And it was so sweet and they were so excited to see each other. And he even made a joke about how she managed to not get hung and like for being rebellious and all of this stuff. Like he had that moment and then he lost it and it's so upsetting. You can see that he's simultaneously happy for Finnick, but also it just hurts so bad that he doesn't have that.
That's so funny. There's only like 10 guards in here and they're guarding like 50 people. And some of you guys are holding knives. That's crazy. So cool how you stood up to that peacekeeper. You ever think about doing more of that? Maybe on a larger scale? Everybody say surveillance state. Crazy how many tributes there are this year, huh? Kind of makes you think, like, there's way more of you than there are of us, right? Was anyone else thinking that? Okay, one more, but this time I want you to look right at the camera and think rebellion, revolution, civil unrest. No reason. Just gives you an edge. We're going for like a bad boy thing, right? Somebody say death to snow? Did I hear somebody say that? No. I could have sworn. No, I love the Capitol. Nobody loves the Capitol more than me. It's kind of like, why doesn't everybody in the districts love the Capitol, right? Because not everybody does, I've heard. And it's like, why? Why do hundreds upon thousands of people, like really the majority of the population, despise and want to overthrow the Capitol? I don't know. That's so weird. Fun fact, statistically, every single one of you has lost a loved one at the hands of the very government that's supposed to protect you. How does that make everyone feel? Let's go around the room. You know, dictatorships actually get overthrown all the time. Yeah, super common. Something to think about.
Everyone's like, surveillance state. Oh my gosh. This girl is hilarious. Like, she's so creative. I absolutely love all of her Hunger Games content. We have one more coming from her. But I feel like this does really capture Plutarch. He's so, what is the word? Just kind of manipulative and kind of just nudging everyone else to do what he wants and like planting ideas. I said before when I was reading the book, like, I don't know if Plutarch is a good person. I think that's part of the point of his character, is that you have bad people or morally gray people on the right side, and then you have good people or people who could become good on the wrong side. And I feel like that was really important with Proserpina's character. There is a note where it's like she just had a lot of unlearning to do. Like, Haymitch didn't think she was a bad person, even though she was fully sold on the Capitol, the same way Effie was. And so I think that's what makes Plutarch so interesting to me, is that he's a bad person with good motives, almost. And when I say bad, I don't mean he's, conniving in a bad way, but he also wasn't looking for ways to help individuals. He was looking for his main goal and the main goal of the rebellion, and he was kind of willing to do whatever it took, and he didn't have boundaries in that way. But she shows it in such a funny way, where she's just kind of slightly stirring the crowd, just like, crazy how there's so many people here who hate the Capitol, and yet nothing's happening. And that is kind of how Plutarch is. Knowing that his background is in film, like there's just a huge part of him that shows people things without his personal commentary, but he knows how to, layer the footage or show things in a way that tells his message without him having to be on the front lines.
For every crass video of snow, we will add a squirrel. They fancy snow now. They will suffer for this perversion. Women and men alike have chosen Coriolanus. They will rue the day. Another squirrel, immediately. Bring back more beloved characters. Make them suffer. Add flamingos. Replace their beaks with blades. Every time they refer to snow as daddy, take a child. They have forgotten who Coriolanus is. It is our duty to remind them. Increase the use of poison by 15%. Good, Suzanne. They will fear us once more. Gumdrops. They have suffered enough. Add goose eggs.
I've also shown this guy before. I just think he's so funny. They will rue the day. I think that is a joke for us, is that Sunrise on the Reaping was punishment for the snow edits. And just the way he said it feels so true. That horde of squirrels. There were a lot of snow edits. And it's true every time we brought back a character who is beloved by the fandom. We really only brought back the characters that people loved, that were already around. Like Finnick wasn't on the scene yet. But we bring in Wyrus and Beatty and Mags, and we make all of them hurt so incredibly much. It does feel a little intentional on Suzanne's part. Sometimes I've seen little snippets of her talking and she seems so nice. Crazy stuff.
One step, two step.
I really do think that Rhett should be like a tour guide of pointless places. He's so into this. He's so into, like, sharing knowledge that he's making up on the spot.
It's so funny. I mean, you've got to wonder what Maisie was thinking. Because we're in Haymitch's perspective, and we know that multiple times in the games, Haymitch is like, how do I get from point A to B and make it seem logical to the viewers? And because, like, for the times when he was with Ampert, they both knew the plan, and so, like, they could kind of communicate on a certain level. Maisie has no idea what Haymitch is trying to do. And I feel like this is so accurate, where she's like, I guess I'll just let him take the lead. Like, what are we doing? And it's because she doesn't doesn't understand the plan. That's why they end up splitting up later. She doesn't want to stay towards the edge because she has no idea that Haymitch is even beginning to formulate an idea of how to break the arena. And so she's like, this is the end, I'm gonna leave. And as a reader, partly, it's a relief because you're like, okay, we're not gonna end up with a Haymitch-Maisilee showdown, which wouldn't have happened anyway. And that's the thing I was saying, like, can you imagine if it had been Haymitch and Maisilee who got out of there? Because that might have been the case if he had been able to tell her his plan, if they had communicated beforehand about breaking the arena and stuff like that. Part of me thinks if he had just trusted her with that information, maybe they could have both gotten out. And I don't know. Katniss and Peeta were a special case because they made it to the very end, and Katniss knew what the poison berries did. There were a lot of small things in place that made it happen the way it did. It was technically an accident that they both got out, and would the game makers have let Maisilee and Haymitch make it to that point? We have no idea. But it's sad.
Strategy. My fruit! Oh, get off me! Give it! Get off me! Get off me, you rabbit! Squirrel!
I like that a lot. This is also from the new We Were Liars show. And I think it's hilarious because it is very much Haymitch and Maisilee's relationship to be siblings, and not just siblings, but kind of aggressive siblings. Had they made it out together and been friends outside the arena, I think that's what it would have been like that. Maisilee's not going to be prim and proper necessarily around Haymitch and be sweet. She's not sweet. She would have fought with him like that, and it's upsetting to think about.
I'm in the trees, I'm in the breeze, see my face, but you can't catch me now.
I'm fine. It's just really upsetting because Wyris is talking about how she didn't want to die at night, and that was her one thing. The same way that Mags had talked about, picking your one thing that matters to you when you're in the games other than trying to get out. And for Wyris, she didn't want to die in nighttime in darkness. And she didn't when she was in the Catching Fire arena. And then somebody put in the comments that she not only didn't kill anybody in both games, she went into the Hunger Games twice and never killed anyone. She also figured out both arenas, because that's how she won her initial game, was because she knew where, I guess, all the mirrors were refracting and stuff like that. And so she was able to hide in plain sight. And then in the Catching Fire arena, she figured out that it was a clock. It's just really sad. Honestly, she at least didn't die during the night, and it's just like such a parallel to Mags. I saw another TikTok that I couldn't download, and it was similar, where Mags had made the point that, she realized outside of winning, what was important to her was to protect her district partner, and that's what she tried to do, but obviously she made it out of the games and not her district partner. And so when she went in for Catching Fire, she first of all traded places with Annie, protecting her. And then when she got into the arena, I wish I could have downloaded the TikTok for you. There were so many little times where Mags points out a danger or kind of takes care of Finnick in a certain way, and it's her just protecting him over and over again, up until she made the sacrifice of walking into the fog to make sure that he got away. And it's just crazy that Suzanne Collins comes back and writes Sunrise on the Reaping, and she can pull those details. I think it just comes down to knowing who your characters are, because those details, we sort of overlook them in Catching Fire because she is the oldest tribute, and it's very clear she's not going to be making it out of the arena, and we just think, oh, isn't that so sweet of this little old lady to sacrifice herself, because she knows that she doesn't have that much longer anyway, and so she decides to give these younger people from her district more time. But it goes a lot deeper than that because of Mags having that mindset in her own games when she was a teenager, and she was the one with life left to live, and she was still willing to look after her district partner. This is going to be interesting. Do you think they're going to do the bow? Because I think they're going to do the bow. But if we're going to keep with the Covey girls, then it should be Lenore Dove doing the bow. Lenore Dove has the sass to do it. However, it makes more sense for Maisilee, I think. I saw somebody speculating that Maisilee is kind of Covey because she knows the words from the Covey song. I feel like at that point, Maisilee's grandmother could have listened to the Covey without being one of them, because it hasn't been that much time since Lucy Gray and when the Hob got shut down from being that performance hall. But even if she's not Covey, I feel like that sort of the spirit of the bow works better with Maisilee's character, and I would love to see it. Can you imagine her fighting with Drusilla and then pulling that out? Just top notch. This is brutal. Hey, want to hear a not so fun Sunrise on the Reaping fact? When Haymitch sees Luella's body at the parade, it immediately reminds him of a dead baby Mockingjay he once found in the woods. A generation later, he has to watch the little girl who reminds him so much of Luella that he accidentally calls her by Luella's old nickname, grow up, and become the Mockingjay. I didn't catch that detail, and that's so Suzanne. That's crazy work. And I think with this book, there's been a lot of discussion with people talking about how much of a point in the book is made that, you know, maybe Katniss wasn't the chosen one. She was just right place, right time. And had Luella and Katniss been switched, Katniss would have been the baby dead Mockingjay. You know, like, I think it's just such a sticking point for a lot of us because we've read so many chosen one tropes, and a lot of the stories that we read, it is chosen one style. And partly, I think not having a chosen one, or it just being she happened to get chosen because of circumstances and the people around her and the 50 years of work that other people put in, and that's how she got accidentally chosen. I think not only does it like reflect more realistically how we found iconic symbols in people throughout history, but also I just think it's refreshing to a lot of us. But reading it like this is deeply upsetting, and I can't believe I missed that detail, honestly. But there was so much symbolism. That's one of the fun things about this book, is that people have just continued to unpack it, and there was so much in there that you couldn't pick it up in one reading. And I did try and go do a reread like right after I finished reading the book. I didn't want to read anything else, and so I started over, and I was like, I cannot do this. I need a break. I had two purely like Hunger Games, not necessarily Sunrise on the Reaping things to show you. That baby was not waking up for anything. That's so cute. Also, if you notice the name Theodore Lawrence, yes, that is Jennifer Lawrence's nephew. And that's so cute that they bring it. I've always wondered that. I'm like, does somebody like just decide that they want their tiny baby to be an actor and they start off with stuff like this? But I kind of love that it was her nephew, or that people bring in family babies. What a fun piece of trivia when you grow up. You will never lose at Two Truths and a Lie.
All right, I spoke to Katniss about allies. She wants Wirus, Mags, Beatty, and that's it.
What?
What? I tried to reason with her.
She didn't pick me? I stripped and everything!
Yeah, that may not have had the intended effect.
I gave her the premium treatment. Full frontal. For free!
And here I thought we had a rapport. You were flirting with her. She's taken. I thought that was all for the cameras. It's complicated. I think she just liked the victors that made themselves vulnerable.
What's more vulnerable than my exposed... This is unbelievable. I mean, nuts and bolts.
Why can't we just tell her we're all working together on a rebellion? Because she's the worst liar I've ever met.
Personally, I'm very excited by this outcome. I've never been the popular girl before. You're still not.
I absolutely love this. Her impressions are so spot on. Like, I just love this creator. The second we turn to Joanna and she says, what? I knew exactly who she was. We need no explanation. For free. And it is really fun to, like, imagine what those scenes were behind the scenes and why we couldn't tell that truly is the reason we couldn't tell Katniss. She would not have been able to pull off the emotion in a believable way had she known. She's not an actress. We've made that clear. And she's not a liar. It's hard for her. As tough as she is, she sort of does wear her heart on her sleeve. It's very clear what's important to her. Mags and Fiddick, that is so funny. And then Wirus at the end, I just love that. It's so good. The fandom's so creative. I made a video a little while back about the Sunrise on the Reaping auditions, and she auditioned, and I would absolutely love it if she got into the movie. It's so funny. She does such a good job on these videos. Like, highly recommend binge watching. I just continue to wait for the trailer or even a teaser. My guess is they haven't even really started filming yet, especially if Joseph Zeta was still on the We Were Liars set like fairly recently. Let me know if you'd be interested in doing this for other series, because Sunrise on the Reaping isn't the only one with great TikToks coming out, so I've been seeing them on my For You page, and if y'all want to watch other ones, I would very much be down for that. So please let me know in the comments / which series. I feel like Twilight and Shatter Me are probably pretty high up there, or Throne of Glass. I see at least a fair amount of content for those series, but still working my way through the third Mistborn book. So if you've read that series, please keep an eye out. I've just been struggling to get through it for some reason. I think it's just the focus is not there for me right now, but hoping to finish that one up soon. Please like this video if you liked it, click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Caitlin, thanks for watching. Bye.